Hello and welcome again to another edition of Riff On. My name is Eric D.
I'm Andrew James, the one who sees dimly.
Yeah, you can say that, all right. And we're going to riff on today about something that's near and dear to both of our hearts, and that's live music.
It's how we met.
It is how we met. Kinda. We went to high school together, but we really didn't know each other.
No, you forgot I existed.
I didn't know you existed was really the thing. So about 9 years ago, you were playing at the Monkey. Were you playing with John, or were you playing with one of your brothers?
No, Dave's the only one that plays.
Okay.
No, I was playing with John. Was it just the duo?
Yeah, it was just the duo.
Citizen Bear, the duo.
That's what it was. It was Citizen Bear, the duo.
Those were back in the day when we would play with people like Marisa Smith and Kelly Raven and Ruff Francis would be headlining nights, and
so many names.
Paper Castles.
The Burlington music scene is fantastic. So I finally, we met, I guess, officially about 9.5+ years ago now, incredibly, because I know who I was there meeting. Essentially my brother-in-law, Brian, and he was there, and
one
with
of my best
his wife
friends from high school.
Right, my neighbor from high school. And that's how he and I connected. But so you and I have been pretty close ever since. But
we sure have.
We both have interesting perspectives on the music scene. So I went to school to be a radio DJ, and I've DJed locally at what's now 92.9 and also WWPV, St. Michael's College Radio, for 4 years, and interned for Corman the Coach 20 years ago now. So I've been around the scene for quite a while, and used to run sound and kind of road manage and archive for the Burlington band currently Nameless. We'll eventually.
Are they still Nameless, or
did
they find a? They didn't get a band name yet.
One of the best band names ever, and it just kind of came about one day when Josh Keller was trying to book a show at Club Toast, and they had kind of a demo tape, and they gave it down to Justin to get a gig, and he just scribbled down "Currently Nameless," and he looked at the tape, and he was like, "Oh, Currently Nameless, that's your name?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." And it just stuck. And it worked well because it really helped, quote unquote, define or not define their genre, because they were really a little bit of everywhere. So they were kind of a currently nameless genre as well at the time.
It's fun to dig into that archive of Currently Nameless, because when you say they're out there, they really were. Because, Vermont's pretty well known for its jam bands. And while Currently Nameless can get jammy, like there's a lot of like jazzy blues harmonies going on in their music.
All five people can sing, which was just an amazing aspect of it nowadays, and they could sing well. It wasn't just that's where the jam scene's been lost. Is there may be an okay lyricist, but some really bad vocalists out there. Well, they could all sing, they could all play. Or
a good vocalist and pretty bad lyricist.
That too.
There's some nonsense bands out there. If you go and listen to one of the most popular jam bands out there, go listen to their lyrics. What are they even saying?
The band that changed my life, July 22nd, 1993, when I saw Phish for the first time in Stowe.
I didn't say it was Phish.
And they just changed my outlook on music and going to see live shows. And you've got an interesting perspective because you've been out there playing live shows.
I get hired for different events and for nights to play. My wife and I, Elizabeth, play out as the Owl Stars. We have a cajon player now, Dan Gregoire.
He's an official member now?
Yeah.
Unofficial. I
think it's official. He played all the 2017 shows with us.
That's fantastic. And you played quite a few 2017 shows. You're doing like the tours of the Vermont breweries, which is a fantastic place to play.
We have played a lot of the breweries in the Burlington area, the greater Burlington area.
But there's nothing wrong with that. But even before then, you and Elizabeth were both in Citizen Bear.
We were in Citizen Bear. John Gratton and I started that band in 2007. And we hit up the Monkey House. We would do residence at the Monkey House from like 2007 to 2010, and then we brought in a drummer, and in 2010 we brought in a drummer, we brought in a bass player, Jesse Cowan of Vermont Fretworks. And
you just had to fit that in there, didn't you? No, there's anything wrong with that.
I did. You went to school for radio. I went to school for graphic design. So
see where that got us, huh?
Yeah, I work in IT now.
I work in construction. One of the worst parts about going to school to be a DJ, and not that there's anything wrong with going to school to be a DJ. I'm actually glad I did what I did. And
as long as you don't, I mean, if you want to have an adult job, you don't go and be a DJ.
Well, the nice thing is I signed up for an associate's degree at the New England School of Broadcasting in Bangor, Maine. And about a month in, I was like, I don't need an associate's degree to work in radio. I can just do this 1-year certificate, which they offered. So I only did 1 year. I walked out of college, really a trade school, with, I think, $3,500 in student loans. And it was paid off in a couple of years, $3,500. And I learned about 2 months in, they basically said, if you want to make money in radio, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, there's no money in radio.
And not only that, there's nothing decent in radio anymore. Terrestrial radio or even satellite radio, in my opinion. Radio is going to be another Riff On podcast on its own, where we'll just tear it apart from top to bottom.
Well, I enjoy some of our local...
I enjoy some of the on-air talent, but the second it's turned over to the music, it kind of loses its way.
I think, what's the radio station? It's not there anymore. The Radiator.
Radiator's there.
The Radiator's still around?
Yeah, Ross has still got Bootleggers Beware every Saturday morning. Absolutely. They've moved locations, but they're still out there.
I thought they were not doing that anymore. But Big Heavy World, Jim...
Lockridge.
Yeah.
They just moved offices, I found out.
Really?
I know he's on Pine Street, amazingly enough, down into the Arts District in the Speeder and Earls building.
Well, you know what? I think that's a great move for them.
And that's where the Radiator is.
They're right near Arts Riot.
Arts Riot's a fantastic venue.
But there's the Radiator. You can hear some stuff. St. Mike's Radio, your old
4 years on Saturday afternoons. It was great.
What's the one in Waterbury? WPTV?
I don't know. FM?
There's one down in Waterbury that's good, and then I know that Tim Lewis does one with your guy there, Ryan Cohen.
Really? They do a show together?
They do a I don't know if they're doing a podcast.
Tim Lewis was at the Milton Busker show last Wednesday at the Light Club Lamp Shop, and he's a music
He's
god.
He's an archivist. He is like the ultimate Vermont just music lover.
Troubadour. Ambassador. I mean,
he's amazing. Between him and Jim Lockridge, like there's so much of what we're doing right now in the scene and what's been going on in the scene for the last 15 years has been archived.
And that's where my, I guess you could say, background strength is nowadays. Every time I get into a deep musical discussion with somebody, they ask me if I play an instrument. My answer is no, but I live DJ as a wedding DJ occasionally. I do radio if I can, but I will share music, and I'm trying to do that actually every day. It was kind of a spontaneous resolution. I'm going to try to share some new music every day. And I even just started up a new private Facebook group to share Northern Vermont events and share music with Facebook friends.
What's that called?
It's called Long Tall Road.
And how can people get involved in that?
Just jump on Long Tall Road on Facebook group and send it an invite, and I'll probably let you connect. But the funny thing was, I'm like, I need a cool name, so I actually went to a hipster band generator website, and it was the first hit. And I was like, I love this name because for anybody that's familiar with live music and bands out there playing live music and even artists, it's truly a long, tall road, and you have that perspective.
It's not about the sprint, it's not... being a part of the scene, whether you're a player or listener or a someone who really supports, financially, or you're giving likes or you're sharing events, someone who is a part of the scene, it is a long, tall road. I mean, there's so much going on with the internet and being connected to things. There's a lot of entertainment. There's a lot of options out there, and so to be able to hear music, good music, 7 nights a week in the Burlington area, the live music scene is huge. And I always thought of using social media and just as an avenue to just let people know what's going on. Because so many times people would come up to me and be like, "Oh, you're playing. When are you playing next?" I was like, "Oh, I just played last night."
Right.
"Oh, I wish I had known.
Right. And that's one of the reasons why I started Long Tall Road. Every time I go out and someone would be like, I wish I knew you were going out because I wasn't doing anything and you're always seeing great music. And that's the reason why I started it. And just a couple of artists I've discovered just in the last couple of days are coming to town over the next couple of months. And I've shared them already in it. Tyler Childers is one of them, who I just discovered 2 days ago, who's just fantastic.
One of them I think I said I was going to go to.
Yeah, it may have been that one. Anderson East is coming to Higher Grounds.
Is that February?
That one is April. Tyler Childers is February. And then the National Reserve I got introduced to, and they're coming to Nectar's. And all three of them I definitely want to check out. And there are bands completely not on my radar if it wasn't through due to social. But the distribution channels are just so different nowadays. And you don't need to release a physical product. Like over the years, did Citizen Bear ever release a CD?
We released one CD.
Oh, okay.
And we have one about 80% done.
But that's changed just so much. I mean, you were standing next to you're sitting in my nice, beautiful Barca lounge. You're sitting next to my commercial CD collection, which at one point was well over 1,000 CDs and is now down to, I don't know, probably 400 or 500. But then I have these black binders as well that hold my live music collection from shows that I've either recorded or traded for, and I probably have another 2,000 CDs. But yet if I pull open this drawer right here and I pull out my iPod, which I actually haven't even used for a couple of months, this is 160 gig, and this is the size of my wallet, and even smaller than a George Costanza wallet.
Right.
And it's got 160 gig, 22,000 songs on it. And the distribution network has just changed incredibly. At one point, all of these binders had my live music collection in them, but then it turned to the web and archive.org. And for anyone who's never been to archive.org,
go there.
It's just, there's just so much on it. And just one portion of it is the live music vault, really. And it's for bands that openly allowed trading, which Phish is one of them. The Grateful Dead originally started that.
I think there's a bunch of Dave Matthews on there.
Dave Matthews is not on the archive because he
was.
Nugs.net has created a viable financial network for bands to sell their recordings. Pearl Jam being one of them, as I stare at a drawing I have here in my office of, sorry, I should say the Riff On studios of Eddie Vedder. But Pearl Jam got into it. Bruce Springsteen even got into it. But the distribution model has changed immensely. But the beauty of really social and live nowadays is you click on live stream and you've got music out there. And you don't have to go out.
I'd like to rabbit trail a little bit off of something you said. So it's interesting because back in 2012, you could...
Hopefully you listened to episode 3 and got that one.
You could go on to archive.org and you could get, I was so excited. They had probably 15 Counting Crow shows on there, a bunch of Dave Matthews, a bunch of Grateful Dead, a bunch of, no Pearl Jam, but a bunch of bands that I was like excited to listen to their live music. We were talking outside of the recorded space, the podcast, about how you survive as a musician. And I think it's great if people are willing, if your live stuff is good enough that people are willing to pay for it. I think it's good that there's a place that you can circumvent the record company and try to get paid for something. Because right now, I think it's very hard for musicians to make a living and do it professionally. If you think about something like professional basketball players, if these guys had to go work a day job and then play games at night, the game wouldn't be as good as it is right now. Or football, or if I think about some of our brewery friends that would, when they were starting up their breweries, they were working day jobs and then going and making their beer. And the beer's gotten exponentially better as they've gone from going to day job to focusing on brewing beer.
Full time, sure. Absolutely.
Full time. So if we can do that for for music, you know, not just for people like myself, but people like that are just out there doing it and trying to kill it and
Right.
and are having to make that hard decision. You know, am I going to buy a house? Am I going to have kids?
Right. So much is in music. I think, and let me know if you think I'm incorrect, but a lot of it seems to still be sometimes right place, right time. And you've got these artists that just take
That's
off
life,
from
man.
one. It really is. But you think, you know, I remember, not that he wasn't around, I just listened to a great podcast with Chris Stapleton on the Joe Rogan podcast where he goes into his background a little bit. But I was unfamiliar with who Chris Stapleton was until he was on the Country Music Awards with Justin Timberlake. And it's just an incredible performance for those that haven't seen it. It really, not that he didn't walk away, Chris Stapleton, that is, with multiple awards that night, but it really put him on the map. And he talks in this Joe Rogan podcast about how every night he's basically completely and utterly in awe of playing these 18,000 person arenas when just a couple of years ago he was playing in small, you know, clubs and theaters. And he's been a professional songwriter for 10 years now. I think he's barely 40, I want to say. And he's written upwards of 1,000 songs. And right now, he just released 2 albums this year. From a Room Volume 2 is probably my most favorite release of 2017.
Oh, really?
Just incredible. And he just went back into some of his archives of songs written and pulled them out, and he either shelved them or wrote them for somebody else, and he would just, you know, go out and write them. But he'd been a professional songwriter for a mighty long time. And the song is, the actual craft has been lost over the years, it seems like. And you're a songwriter, you know, the long, tall road is out there. There's just so many guys out there struggling. Any night here in Burlington, you can catch, you know, so many different artists out there that are just killing it. One of my other favorite releases, and I know I've seen Kelly briefly, at least in, shoot, help me with his former band.
So he's now in the welterweights, but before that he played in Wayland Speed. Before that he was in Lucy Vincent, and I remember reading about Lucy Vincent way back when. But Wayland Speed I finally got to see Kelly, and I heard some of his solo stuff. But Engine just came out, and just fantastic stuff. It's really good
for the local scene.
Really good album.
So we both see, I think, a fair amount of live music. It's slowed down a little bit for me over the years, but I literally was at Higher Ground on day one, April 15th, 1998, when they were in Winooski. I saw the bands Everything and Agents of Good Roots, and I was there with my recorder in hand and waiting at the door, and they were like, well, what's in the box? And I'm like, it's my dad. I'm going to record. And they're like, oh, we don't know if we're going to allow recording yet. And I was like, you're going to allow recording. And I went there probably 100+ times over the next 5-8 years, whatever, until they sheltered and moved to South Burlington, and recorded, and actually ended up running the deck for one of the original co-owners of Higher Ground. And he ran their sound recording gear, or I'd run it for him actually, and I'd come away with one of the 2 basically recordings that would be made of an artist on any given night. And I've still got quite a collection that just sits out there. But I've been, you know, seeing live music heavily since we mentioned Phish, July 22nd, 1993. It'll be my 25th Phish anniversary coming up this July, and I've been.
You gonna catch Phish this summer then?
I'm going to go. If rumors stand true, they're going to be playing Watkins Glen, and it sounds like right around my birthday. And I missed the last one, which was on my 40th birthday, and I really should have gone. So this year, I do plan on going. I haven't seen them in 4 years.
I think your 40th wasn't too bad though.
Currently Nameless reunited for my 40th, and that was pretty darn good. It was just shy of their 20th anniversary, and they hadn't played a live show in, I want to say, 7 years, and it was a great time. But thinking back to 2017, what we were going to talk about on this podcast was live music in 2017, but
I think the conversation that we've had is, it is the music scene in 2017.
It continues to kind of go up and down. I think of the popular bands that I loved over the years. Many of them just couldn't make it because of that long, tall road, really, that's out there. And some of them that come to mind that I really enjoyed were Belizbeha and viperHouse. And
viperHouse, I have to say, like, that sounds like the name of a Def Leppard album. I think every time I hear viperHouse, I'm like, This is like some kind of 90s hair bands album, right?
They were phenomenal. I mean,
I don't know these. Did you make a CD for me?
I tried making one of them, and it wasn't cooperating with me that night, but I'll make you one. Heloise, who's got one of the best vocalists around, was in viperHouse. Ray Patskowski, who's now in the Trey Anastasio band, is in Vorza. Was the keyboardist.
Russ and Ray. Solmond.
Yeah, exactly. He's in Solmond now. Robinson Morse, phenomenal bassist, is in viperHouse. I mean, just truly a great acid jazz funk
just
act.
Sounds like a band that you would find on a Rocky soundtrack.
Yeah, that could be Smokin Grass, another great band. Had a reunited a couple of years ago. You know what's great is, and they just announced a slight little bit of a hiccup, but every other Thursday, 3/5 of Smokin Grass plays as the Hot Pickin' Party at the Daily Planet in Burlington. Thursday nights, it's Doug Perkins, one of the best flat-picking guitarists you'll ever see, Adam Frem on dobro, and Mike Santoso on upright bass on the teeniest stage in Burlington, basically 3/5 of Smokin Grass for free every other Thursday. So check out Hot Pickin' Party. But Smokin Grass really was out there trying to do it for quite a while. They helped really put the new grass scene on the market. That just the other night I saw Cabinet at Higher Ground, and they're going into hiatus, but they're on the scene now. The infamous String Dusters, Green Sky Bluegrass, Yonder Mountain String Band, all of these new grass artists that are just read. Green Sky Bluegrass is playing 2 nights as a headliner at Red Rocks this summer.
Oh, really?
And a band that you can still see at Higher Ground, and it's with all 600 people capacity. But the popularity of some of these bands that come through little old Burlington, and really our most widely known common club room is Higher Ground, and it's either 600 on the big side or 300 on the small side, and these national acts come through town. We're lucky.
They love being here. You know, one of my favorite acts to go see is Matisyahu, and that dude, you know who Matisyahu is?
We're not going to talk about him because I actually don't enjoy him at all and don't get him at all personally. And I like reggae, if that's what you want to say.
No, I wouldn't call him reggae.
I'm just not big into what he does.
I've seen him 6 times, and the fact that he comes into Burlington and plays Higher Ground is pretty ridiculous.
He's been doing it for a long time. Yeah.
He last time he was here, or last time I saw him, was 2016, and he had Mahali from Twiddle playing with him.
Yeah, Twiddle. The band, I mean, you could see them at Nectar's easily a year and a half ago, and they're now playing Red Rocks in the Capitol Theater in Port Chester, New York, and selling out some major, major rooms. But I know for a fact that people think they're newish on the scene. I saw them in Burlington at least 11 years ago.
Was it 2012 that you saw
No,
them?
it wasn't 2012. It was before 2012. It was at least 11 years ago, because it was a former life of mine. I saw them at Re-Raws in Burlington and was like, yeah, they're all right.
There must have been kids back then.
They've been around. They're still pretty young now.
They are, yeah.
As you can tell, those that have put in the time is, well, I don't know if you can tell that necessarily, but the guys that really have their act polished, let's say, have been on the road doing it, and they're playing to 2 people, they're playing to 20 people, or to 200 people, all the same way. You know, you never know who's in the audience.
I have to say, one of my favorite acts of 2017 live was Seth Yacovone, because that dude, I saw him play up at the it's not the Hub anymore.
Morrisville, right?
Johnson. Saw him play in Johnson, and there must have been 10 people there, and he's
wailing.
He was killing it.
Yeah.
And then you see him play at Smugs for like 6,000 people, and like that dude just gets up. It doesn't matter. Like he's like a true professional musician.
Right. Weekly residency at Nectar's on Friday night for like 5 years now.
He's been doing Martels. He'll hit up Moogs.
Yeah, I remember. I don't know how old he is now, but I remember him before he was 21, and he's in his late 30s now, at least.
He's the same age as your sister.
Okay, so she's 36. Okay. So, yeah, but I remember seeing him play. Heck, I remember seeing him on stage with Phish in Worcester in 97 or 98. It was a little foggy. It was 20 or 19 years ago, but I remember seeing him sit and play Layla with Phish.
He must have hit the scene when he was 14 or 15.
He was. He was really young, which is like what Derek Trucks was doing. I remember Derek Trucks being on stage at 13 years old, and he is presently fronting the best live band out there, in my opinion, with his wife, Susan Tedeschi, the Tedeschi Trucks Band. And for anybody that has not listened to Tedeschi Trucks, do yourself a favor. You don't even have to go see them. Pick up one of their recordings, but my God, go see them if you can.
Elizabeth's always being like, she's like, oh, we should cover this song. I'm like, who's going to play guitar? Like, if it's just you and I, Elizabeth, like, I'm not playing those parts.
His guitar is...
he's phenomenal.
I saw Tedeschi Trucks in Essex this year at the fairgrounds, and one of the opening acts, who I was vaguely familiar with because of Chris Wood, was the Wood Brothers. And I've been seeing Medeski, Martin, and Wood for 20 years now, but Chris plays with his brother Oliver, and they have a multi-instrumentalist play with him. Can't remember his name right offhand, but it's just a three-piece. They just killed it. I was like, I'll never miss the Wood Brothers again. They got a new album coming out, I want to say early February. I'm really excited about now, but definitely one of the best live shows I saw this year was the Wood Brothers and Tedeschi Trucks Band. The Record Company and Smooth Hound Smith I saw at Higher Ground. For anybody that hasn't heard of either of those acts, do yourself a favor, especially Smooth Hound Smith. I just love those guys, a husband and wife duo, and he plays guitar and then kick drum with his right foot and snare drum with his left foot. And she sings and does tambourine, basically. And
I really like that. Is it electric or acoustic?
Electric. He plays a little bit of acoustic, but mainly electric, and just an amazing sound. But the Record Company, a great power blues trio from L.A. that was nominated for a Grammy with their debut album that they recorded in their living room. And they're recording right now album number 2, and one of those releases I can't wait to hear in 2018. Can't wait to see them come back. But some of the better shows I saw this year. And then a band that I introduced you to that I brought you out to was, well, no, I didn't take you out to it because you actually had to pay for your own ticket, but the Bar Brothers.
Oh, Bar Brothers are fantastic.
And I've been seeing those guys since they were in the Slip in the late 90s. They used to actually live in Burlington for a little while, and they relocated to Montreal and released one of the better releases I heard of 2017. Just incredible. Bar Brothers was, I know that you were quite blown away seeing those guys.
Some of the stuff that they would do was so interesting live to hear how they actually got some of the sounds that they get. And
they're getting some of their sounds out of a harp, and I'm not. I don't mean a harmonica. I mean harp, and it's just incredible.
The thing that honestly, the thing that I was most impressed with is he would tie strings to I think he was an acoustic guitar.
Yep.
And he would run the strings along. Very interesting how they got sounds.
Yeah.
And just to see it, like, the whole experience was very, very cool.
Yeah. And that's one of the bands. They were just in Europe the week before, basically, opening for the War on Drugs and selling out. The War on Drugs were at major theaters in Europe, and then they came back and basically played Montreal and then Toronto and then came down to little old Burlington, and it was like Tuesday night. And it was telling you, pretty full house.
You can see some really good acts in Burlington, and you don't even realize what you're going out to see.
Yeah. What you need to do is be amiable to going out Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because not that we don't get good acts on Fridays and Saturdays, but they go to basically, Portland, Albany, Montreal, New York City on Fridays and Saturdays, and we kind of sometimes get the off days.
They're selling out, too. Like if you get, if Ben Harper was to come on a Friday night to Higher Ground, you're not getting a ticket to see Ben Harper at Higher Ground. Or even if he's going to the Flynn, you're probably not getting a ticket.
Tough ticket, yeah.
I remember when I was on the line trying to figure out if I was going to go see the Decemberists. I'm like, well, they're $50 tickets. The Flynn, that's expensive. I'm sure I can make the decision
closer to day of, and
they sold out. It's like, oh,
I missed that show altogether. I don't even remember them coming. And I thought the
same
thing
about 2012.
I thought the same thing about the Lumineers. Maybe going to see that at the Maritime Festival, and they sold out.
I saw them at the Maritime Festival.
Yeah, and they sold out in like a week.
It did. They sold out quick.
We only have so many venues, though, is the tricky thing. So after, really higher grounds where most of the major club acts come through. Memorial Auditorium has been shuttered now for 2 years. We got the Flynn Theater that only holds 1,500 people. And then we have, in our whole state of Vermont, we don't have an outdoor amphitheater, really. Jay Peak put one in, but I saw Phish in 93 in Stowe, and I saw many, many shows there, including Horde and in multiple years, and Jethro Tull and Aerosmith, and it was a great venue, and really no one stepped up and has done that. Sugarbush did it a couple of years, Bolton did it a little bit, so the Fair has kind of become our de facto live music venue, but usually
for big acts.
What's
like
tough
if you're
is
see major acts. Like I saw Elton John at the Fair, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I had Paul Simon tickets. I didn't have a chance to go, but those were off-fair shows. They weren't during the last week in August, which is when the Champlain Valley Fair comes to town, and that's when you get the novelty acts, quote unquote novelty acts, and it's tough to say, but like I saw Steppenwolf and Leonard Skinnerd there, 98.
Yeah.
99. So a long time ago. But what I thought was cool was Tedeschi Trucks and Wood Brothers played on the Midway lawn, which was neat because there's a flat ground, but you could bring in a couple thousand people there. And you have the parking, which is phenomenal.
I saw one of my favorite acts on the Midway, and I hated it.
Which show was that?
The music was good. The music was great. It was Michael Frente.
Yeah.
But
I remember that show, yeah.
Couldn't, it was super hard to interact and, really get into the music for me, standing flat.
Right. Everyone's at the same level.
But Michael Frente actually came out. He came back to where we were standing, probably 150 feet from the nice. Stage. Yeah, it was.
He's a
it
great
was
show.
Cool. Oh yeah,
he's a phenomenal show, and he'll always come to town. He's one of those artists that loves Burlington through and through, and played higher ground. I think the last time I want to say
he did, yeah. And that's the rough thing. Like somebody like Michael Frente comes through, and it's like you better
you jump on that ticket.
You have to know somebody to get a ticket,
right.
Pretty much,
right?
Except. You did forget the Shelburne Museum.
I went to my first show this year. I saw Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
Oh, I wanted to go to that
just
show.
Fantastic. And I regret never going to see any show there previously, but every time I kind of hold off, and they haven't, the Tragically Hip were there, and my God, I wish I'd seen them. But I've seen the Hip many times over the years, but had I known about Gord and years ago I would have gone because I haven't seen them in years. But so many shows, and a lot of them I just held off on. I'm not a Dylan fan, so I didn't jump on the Dylan tickets, and no big deal there. Wilco comes there, and I don't do Wilco very well.
Some of the shows that they've had, they had David Byrne and St. Vincent.
Yep.
I went to see the Ava Brothers.
Yeah, I'm not big into Ava Brothers either. No.
That was a pretty good show.
They come every year.
I may have had a couple drinks for that.
The weather always freaks me out. Seeing anything outdoors in Vermont, it does not matter the time of year. No. You never know what you're going to get. And
I got soaked at that Ava Brothers show.
So you just saw them this past year, September.
Did, yeah.
Yes, I remember it pouring rain all day and a chilly rain at that. So the waterfront in Burlington is one of our better venues, but we deal with the ordinances that go along with it, and basically the curfew is 10:30. So Grace Potter's had her festival there for years in September, and I went one year, both nights, and the first night I could have worn a toque, and the second day was 20 degrees warmer. But you never quite know what you're going to get in September on the waterfront. But over the past couple of years, we had the Lumineers were there. Twiddle's done a festival the last 2 years there. And I remember the Black Crows were there towards the end of their existence. But a great place to see a show because the artist actually gets the view because they're the ones that are staring at the Adirondacks and Lake Champlain.
Yeah, and if you play right, then you're playing for the sunset, which is pretty ridiculous watching the sunset over the Adirondacks.
Which is not bad. That's a great view. But we have... So those are really our big major, clubs, but the hidden jewels are really... You mentioned Arts Riot, which is a great place to see a show. I wish... I'm trying to remember the sister business with the sound recording studio down on Lower Main Street that they don't do much stuff there anymore, unfortunately.
They would do the Full Moon Masquerades.
Yes.
They were fantastic. I went and saw a couple shows there.
I did too.
You know who played there was Leon Redbone.
I remember that vaguely. They brought in some great acts. We've got, of course, we're home of Nectars, where Phish famously got their start. Metronome right upstairs. those are really the two big stages. You know
Rusty Nail.
What's a great stage, and Nectar's is now booking Rusty Nail down in Stowe. But a great stage, really two of them, crown jewels really of Burlington are Radio Bean and Light Club Lamp Shop, which is where Milton Busker just played the other night.
Yeah, that's Cat Wright.
Cat Wright, who just, I don't know if she sold out, but she just played 2 nights at Higher Ground for New Year's Eve and New Year's Eve. And got her start at Radio Bean. Of course, she's married to Lee Anderson, the proprietor of both. Not that it has anything to do with, her popularity by any means, but that she was able to get her start there. And they cram, 10 people on that little old Radio Bean stage for 5 years every week and cut their teeth. And
Radio Bean, which fits probably 30 people, and good luck getting to the bar, and you can't get to the bathroom.
Yeah, and they make a cappuccino, and that's all you can hear over the acoustic acts. But I've seen some great shows there. Superhuman Happiness comes to mind. If I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but great act out of Brooklyn. Yeah,
they had a Philly singer-songwriter night that I went to at Radio Bean, and Bertie Bush was there.
I don't know that.
No, well, she's not like super popular, but like if you get into folk music, and I love folk music, I love modern folk like Josh Ritter and Brett Dennen and trying to think, Sturgill Simpson probably wouldn't be considered folk. Maybe Civil Wars.
Way getting into Sturgill Simpson right now. Brett Dennen's coming to town. He's another artist that
love
loves
Brett
Burlington.
Dennen. Oh, he's the sweetest guy ever too.
I heard he's really tall.
He's super tall. He's just the sweetest guy. Like if you get a chance to go see Brett Dennen, go see him. His music is amazing. This dude's been playing a lot like the Seth story, where he started when he was like 14, 15.
Right.
And he's just a beautiful soul. Like he's just such an awesome dude.
Right. And for every artist that's doing that and has made their name, there's hundreds, if not thousands, that are still cutting their teeth in the clubs, just trying to do it and just trying to get out there and make their name. And, we're fortunate here in Burlington that any given night, like Radio Bean is a perfect example. There's 2 to 3 different artists every single night, 7 days a week, almost never recover there. And
you'll get to see bands come through before they get big. Like Lumineers played at Skinny Pancake. Before they hit it big. Low Anthem played Monkey House before they hit it big. Like some of these bands, like they'll come through Burlington because Burlington's a great stop-through place. Like if you're going to play Boston, you're going to play Portland, you're going to play Hartford, you're going to play New York City, Montreal, you might as well hit Burlington because it's right here. And the scene has such a good... It's got such a good name to it. Like people know that they come to Burlington and folks appreciate music are going to come out and see you.
Right. And they know that, we've got a great college scene, so a lot of great, younger folk, but we've also got, I think people who come to town for the first time are blown away with how beautiful Burlington is. I will say 7 months of the year when it's not 20 below zero like it is right now, but even in the wintertime, it's a beautiful city to be. The view is still there, but in the summertime, you come down Main Street from 89 into Burlington and you get the view of the lake and the Adirondacks and the fall with the leaves. I mean, Burlington is absolutely beautiful and people are just blown away by coming through town and walking around and how chill our town is. And it's a town. I mean, we're 50,000 people with the college kids, maybe about 70,000, but that's Burlington. The metro area is about 250,000, but our whole state's only 620,000 people. And Burlington is truly, truly low key and very cool.
I know folks, like just from musicians that I played with, I know folks love playing here, like that come in from out of town.
It's no doubt about it. And I tell bands, if they want to hear my ear, or hear my mouth and listen with their ear, that you need to really commit to Burlington because you can't just dapple in, like jump in and then not come back for a year or 2 years. You really need to hit it hard if you're kind of a growing local regional act, because I've seen national acts come through for the first time that are amazing. And I've been one of 8 people in the crowd. And I've actually gone up to an act before and apologized to them. Be like, look, sorry, it's Thursday night. It's tough to get people out if they don't know your name. You guys are great. Sorry, but you stick with it. Like you can't just jump here and not come back again.
Yeah.
And that's the tough thing about the scene up here.
And that's the crazy thing. So like in word spreads quick. So in 2010, I fell in love with this, rock band from Philly called Dr. Dog. And, first time I went out there to Higher Ground to see Dr. Dog, there was probably like maybe half the room filled. Now, if Dr. Dog comes to town, like you're not getting a ticket unless you buy it, unless you commit to buying it the day before they go on sale.
Yeah, and so many acts that hits fast. I just saw the California Honey Drops a couple of months ago for the first time, who I cannot rave enough about. But they actually asked the crowd at one point, how many of you have seen us before? And, about 100 people shouted. And how many people haven't, seen us before? And, 300 people shouted. And their last show in town, they only had those 100 people or whatever it was. And they're from California, obviously. Creative name, but you got to hit it and hit it hard and be a good show. And I said I paid $15, I think, to go. And by the second song was done, I was like, I've made my money back already. These guys are phenomenal. By set break, I was like, I feel like I should go give these guys $10 more because they've blown me away already. And they had a whole set 2 to go.
Yeah.
But just phenomenal. So this is something that we could riff on about again, I think all night long.
I think.
Yeah.
Hours. And just talking about the music in 2017. Like from local to national acts that came through, the live music that came through over the last year has been ridiculous.
It's been great, and I think 2018 is going to hit hard. Higher Ground's actually celebrating their 20th anniversary this April, and I'm really hoping that they kind of bring back some of those big acts. And I'm actually working on, fingers crossed, Deep Banana Blackout for April.
Oh, yeah?
Because it'll actually be the 20th anniversary of the first time that I've seen them. And I just swapped an email with Fuzz asking him if they would come up and do a reunion show up here in Burlington for my 20th anniversary of seeing them. And coincidentally, it would be within 5 days of Higher Ground's anniversary. So I know that Higher Ground have always been big fans of Deep Banana Blackout. So I got my fingers crossed for that. But 2018 is going to be a great year. And I'm sharing stuff as it comes across my radar, again, on the Facebook group, private group called Long Tall Road. So search that out. I'll put it in on the blog here for the Riff On podcast, and you'll be able to get a link to it. But jump in there, and I'm sharing some events there, and hit us up on social if you want to know what we think of an act, or if we've, refer to a room.
Or if you'd like to come see me play, I play in the Greater Burlington area.
Yeah, and you tweet under the Owl Stars in addition to One Who Sees Dimly, but
mostly it's One Who Sees Dimly.
But you still share under the Owl Stars.
I got the 4 accounts on the Twitter: the Citizen Bear, Imbibe the Times, Owl Stars.
Right. There's a plethora, and hit me up at Hop Snobbery if you want some musical suggestions. I'm going to be seeing a couple of things here over the upcoming months, including the National Reserve and Tyler Childers, which I'm super excited about because he's coming so soon after basically me discovering him. So it's going to be a great year, I think, for music in 2018, and looking forward to seeing where it takes us, and always looking for the next great venue and artist. So if you have any suggestions, hit us up. We don't even promote our own social for the podcast, but it's at Riff On Podcast. If you want to hit us up on any of the socials there and offer a suggestion for us to check out, we'd be glad to look into it and share it.
We like to listen to new music. For sure.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for tuning in. My name's Eric D.
Andrew James.
Until the next Riff On podcast, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you much, Lee.